Is that why we have not we? Is that why there must be something that ties into this case that would explain why Iris owns his cat? Because that's what happened in the first game, the final case. She just suddenly had ownership of his cat. So the cat must come into play or something at some point later, hopefully. And so, his evil curse still apparently unbroken. So Seki-san found himself once again the prime suspect of the case of murder. Thanks to the incriminating deduction of the great detective. I mean, you helped too. My dear fellow, that honor belongs to you. Oh, there you go. Oh my god, where is the to be continued? I thought this was... Well, at least that means Inspector Gregson is no longer here. We can examine the crime scene in more detail now. Yes, that's right. Ah, and of course... What? Have you forgotten what the inspector mentioned before? It was the landlord, Mr. Garadep, who discovered Mr. Shakespeare. Ah, Mr. John Garadep, yes. I expect we could find him in his sitting room on the top floor as usual. Right, we must remember to go and talk to him later then. Well then, now what? Do I want to keep going? I'm really tired, but I want to at the very least, I want to examine it. I feel like how have we done like an hour and a half of gameplay and then we still haven't had a 2P continued? Or did we? And I just don't remember? I'm pretty sure we didn't though. We'll just go ahead and examine. We'll try to get to the next 2P continued. I mean, this is for my sake. It doesn't matter to you guys. This is some sort of makeshift stage, I think, isn't it? What is the audience synth though for the nightly Shakespeare performances? Actors aspiring to the great stage must practice their art, Mr. Naruhodo, with or without an audience. In fact, on a related note, perhaps you should set up a mock bench for the defense in your office. What? Then you could practice your art every single day. Just practice the art of pointing every day. I'll think about it. If you promise to don a beard and play the role of the judge. Well, if that would help you achieve your goal. This I have to see. I want to see that too. But what does she doesn't have to put on a beard for that. Okay. What's this? And here we have another disproportionately large machine. This looks like a meter of some kind. This is a gas meter, I think. It seems that in this district, residents pay for gas as they use it with coins. I see. Yes, now that you pointed it out, I can see that there's a slot just here that looks like it would take a coin. So you mean, if you put a coin in here... That's right. That would buy you about 2 hours of gas for light and heating. So, if you were a poor person with no money, you'd have to sleep in the freezing cold. Yes. Or if you were a scatterbrain with no change because you forgot to exchange your money at the bank. Thank goodness there's no meter in our office. Thank goodness indeed. At least you can space out when you would need heat, right? This is a gas wall light, isn't it? It must be connected to a gas pipe in the wall. Gas lights? A gas stove? London really is a city of gas. But now that I think about it, Mr. and Mr. Garadep had an open fire at the top floor, didn't they? Oh yes, you're right. I don't recall seeing a gas stove up there. Well, I much prefer a real fire anyway. So much cozier. Well, sometimes having real fire is dangerous, but I guess having gas is also dangerous. I don't know, whatever. Alright. Let's check out the man. Oh, the poor man. So young to die. Do you suppose it was a very painful death, being poisoned as he was? I don't know. All we can do now is hope that he'll be reborn to a better life. Yes, I suppose you're right. I wonder. Do you think that putting our hands together in a Japanese prayer will help a British soul? Sorry? I made sure I had a reference at the ready just for just an occasion as this, actually. This book is entitled The Beginner's Guide to Praying for the Departed, the British Way. But I'll just reread it now. One moment. There's quite a spine on that book, isn't there? Okay, well, while she reads that, let's go ahead and not care. As we've seen from the outside, the window is completely bricked up. A vestige of the former window tax that Britons had to pay. What strange thing they used to tax in Britain. I mean, making people pay for the number of windows they had in a property. It's extraordinary. It's the fucking dumbest show. Is that even real? It's heartbreaking to think of the poor having to block up their windows just to avoid an unaffordable tax. Oh! Well, what is it, Mrs. Sato? If you look closely, a number of bricks are loose. Yeah, he lets the fresh air in. Come on, let's go. Open up. He was hiding soap in his bricks? Oh yes, it looks as though an amateur had broken out a few of them just here. Was it Mr. Shakespeare who did it, I wonder? Being the lodger renting his room. Ah, look at this, Mr. Naruhodo. On the outside, there's a little ledge. And there's something on it. What? Outside? Why didn't we get it? It was right there. Why didn't we get it? It's right there. It's sitting right there. It's so cold outside. You can feel it through his scalp. It did snow all last night. It would be cold. But more importantly, what is it on the ledge out there? What are those snow-covered lumps? There's snow on it? It's more bars of soap. Soap? What are bars of soap doing lined up on a ledge outside the window? I have no idea. But the pair of them look rather charming like that. Still, it's very strange, isn't it? Bars of soap lined up outside the window. I think perhaps we should take one. There are two after all. Oh dear. I suppose we could. Oh, what's this? Look here at the soap. Blood? No. A wax stamp? No. What? Is that a mahjong tile? Do you see? In the middle there. There's a patch that's a different color. It's sort of transparent, but some sort of fancy design, I suppose. Only in Greek print. It looks like the Hinomaru flag of Japan, doesn't it? How wonderful! It's probably a very expensive brand. Oh, whatever. Expensive? What's it doing in this ramshackle old room? A cheap bar of soap that was discovered just outside Mr. Shakespeare's window. It's one or two that were found there. It's so bizarre. Why the soap? I don't get it. Look at these extravagant bright costumes. Somehow, they look out of place in this room with its grim, shady goings on. This one looks like a king's attire. A king? I've always dreamt of being a king. Oh, I think you'd be more suited to be a feudal lord, a daimyo or such like. With the what is that word? Is that Japanese? I don't know what that word is. Top knot? Every Japanese man wishes that he'd have a chonmagi. It almost sounds Korean. Oh, you looked wonderful with one, and you already have the sword. Can you imagine what would happen if I walked around the streets of London with the chonmag? What is that word? I don't know how to pronounce it. And the sword? I'm assuming the hair is kind of like similar to like a top knot, or like it's like high. It's just like tied up somehow in some fancy fashion. There's not much on these shelves, is there? Those are shelves. I like literally can't. It's like pitch black on my screen of that. Oh, I can see it. It's like a cover. Okay, I see it now. Just this wine glass and bottle. And both of them are cracked. Yes, not much juice, are they? What's the matter? Oh, I was just reminded of the Reaper, that's all. Prosecutor Lord Van Zeeks. The man whose name I forgot, like, for a really long time last time we played this. Yes, he's so reckless with his wine glasses. I was thinking it's a waste and that he should donate some to the needy. You can suggest it next time we meet. Yeah, I'm sure he'll be fine with that. I'm sure he'll be just fine with that. What's this on the floor? Oh, it's an envelope. Like a ripped up envelope. What's this? I thought it was actually like shavings of his soap. It's like, is he shaving his soap? It looks like part of an envelope, I think. Yes, I think you may be right. Perhaps it was torn off when the letter was opened. Is that significant? Well, it's a little out of place, perhaps. When you look around the room, there's no sign of a letter or the rest of the envelope, in fact, is there? Ah, she's right. And yet here we have the torn up end of an envelope. It just strikes me as unusual. I agree. We better take this just in case. Okay. So someone at some point made their way into this room and stole the envelope. Maybe it was an envelope that had monies in it or something. Is there anything else to investigate? Oh, oh. One of the teacups that Mr. Shakespeare and his guest drank from last night. But don't go drinking from them, Mr. Naruhodo. There's bitter poison inside. I'm not planning on drinking any, don't worry. Anyway, the cups are both empty. That's true. So, one was Mr. Shakespeare's, and the other must be the cup that Mr. Natsume was drinking from. Soseki-san wasn't poisoned, of course. Perhaps we should take these so we can examine them in more detail later. The one with the green line around the room is Mr. Natsume's. Okay. We're done investigating. Looks like you're having a good snoop around, eh? Is that Gyarados? No, what? That's not Gyarados. Inspector Gregson! Back so soon! Mario! After I threw that little Japanese fella in the clink, I went and reported this to the investigation division. In 5 minutes time, this place will be cordoned off by the yard. Oh, I see. Well, we better be leaving then. Poor Mr. Natsume must be feeling very low, being back in the cell again so soon. I'm sure. What's wrong, Mr. Naruhodo? Out's brief candle, life but a walking shadow, a poor player. He's, that struts and fronts his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. Now, how sounded the next part? I don't... What? Mario, it is a tale, told by an idiot full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Are you continuing a story? Indeed, oh happy day! What? Walking Dead! I gotta admit, I wasn't expecting that. The fella isn't dead at all? I don't understand it! You guys didn't check the body? So he's not even dead? Is he dead? Was he just like, what? I wondered, it was weird, because Susato just came in, immediately said that like, oh my god, this man is absolutely fucking dead as shit. I thought that was weird, and we couldn't investigate the body. Ay ay ay. That really startled me. What was that nonsense he was saying though? I think, yes, it was from William Shakespeare's Macbeth. A soliloquy from Act 5, Scene 5. Shakespeare. I remember nothing about Shakespeare. I think I read Macbeth when I was younger. People were reading like Romeo and Juliet and Hamlet or something like that, and I was like, I read Macbeth. I only remember that there was a character in it called Macduff or something like that, or something. I think I only remember that briefly because I think I had to read their lines. I don't remember. I remember nothing about it. Was that Macbeth? Maybe it was. I think it was Macbeth. So it was. The victim, Mr. William Shakespeare, came back to life. If that man had indeed been poisoned, it transpired that it hadn't killed him. He was taken by emergency carriage to a nearby hospital for treatment. And Inspector Gregson evicted us from the scene of the crime, whatever that now was. So he's not dead. He was well, once he recovers, you can't just ask him what happened unless he's gonna say like, I don't remember. Hey, it's the B-Man! He thought he did it. Whatever do you think will happen now? Good question. That bike? Oh no, that bike is still broken. I was like, for a second I thought that bike was like fixed, and I was like, what? Whose bike is that? But you can see the fucking wheel on the side where the tech box is covering it is still busted. What a strange situation for Miss Natsume. Arrested for murder, but then the victim comes back to life. I think perhaps the victim was never dead in the first place. It seems very likely that Mr. Shakespeare did consume poison, as we deduced. But was it an accident? Attempted suicide? Or attempted murder? Until the truth can be established, I imagine the police will keep Mr. Natsume in custody. I suppose so. Let's hope it doesn't come to anything more than a night in the cells. Oh, what's this? The Bee-Man. What's that man doing over there? It looks like he's trying to see into Soseki-san's lodgings. That's definitely not Soseki. Isn't that the bar of soap? The green thing? Soseki's is upstairs, right? Is something wrong with Naruhodo? Excuse me, could we have a word? What was that? Brrr. He just ran off. Or more like he disappeared, but okay. I feel sure that I've seen that man somewhere before. Where was it? I do too, but I don't remember. Why don't you remember? How often do you come across a man in yellow like that? It looks like a bee. This is definitely not Soseki's room. Why did they say Soseki? Isn't this fucking this is the soap man? This is the fucking jester, Shakespeare. Why did they say Soseki? With the exception of the top floor, where Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb live, all the windows are bricked up. Yes, that's because of an old window tax that was charged on the number of windows the property had. In order to pay less tax, the poorer members of society filled in many of their windows. But the tax has since been abolished, hasn't it? So the windows could all be opened up again, surely. Unfortunately, it would appear that the residents of this district can't afford to pay to have the work done. Yes, that is a sad state of affairs. Especially for people like poor Mr. Natsume, who have had to live all cooped up in a windowless room. I suppose that's the price you pay for living in a very cheap accommodation. It all seems rather pointless when you put it like that. Are we not gonna question the... Isn't that not the bar of soap? Suddenly my eye hurts. Is that not the bar of soap that we saw outside of fucking what's-his-name's room? Why are we not looking at it? There always seems to be a bicycle outside the Garadeb residence. I read that bicycles are extremely popular all over Great Britain at the moment, in fact. That one seems very warped, though, especially the front wheel. Is that to make it more of a challenge to ride, do you think? No, I'm afraid that may be a result of the rider's incompetence. For the front wheel to be so badly warped, I'm afraid the rider may have been similarly afflicted. Then, there's a good chance Mr. Natsume has been practicing on this bicycle, I think. Oh dear, I fear you may be right. Soon it is. Door? The Garadeb household and Mr. Natsume's lodgings are in a prominent position there on the corner. Sometimes when I look at the building, I can't help feeling that it was a bit of a slant. It does rather look as though it could collapse in even the smallest earthquake, doesn't it? And isn't it supposed to be haunted as well? I think it may have a hunch as to why Soseki-san has such a hunched back. Do I have to examine the city? I don't have to examine the city, do I? I'll examine the snowman. I think he's important. Why has somebody built a snowman on some sort of pedestal, do you think? Or do you think? That's not a pedestal, Mr. Naruhodo. That's part of the snowman's body. Really? But it already has a perfectly good body. Well, it's true that British snowmen are usually made with 2 balls of snow. Perhaps this is a foreigner. And now we're looking at him as if he's strange. Poor man. I know how he feels. If anything, it's Japanese and British 2-ball snowmen that are the strange ones, isn't it? After all, real people do have 3 sections. Head, torso, and legs. Do you ever think that perhaps you think about things too much? Oh, I guess that's funny. When he said pedestal, now I can see it as a pedestal. I just saw it as just one whole snowman. I know they said that we were supposed to go see Garadeb. Can I go see him? Oh, I can. Here it is. Suite on the top floor of the house where Mr. Natsume had his lodgings, occupied by landlord Garadeb and his wife. The window looks out over a Briar Road below. Let's go. here we are again. The eccentric landlord's eccentric top floor abode. Trying to see if anything looked out of place since we last saw here. Doesn't look like it though. We're here because Mr. Garrideb's the one who discovered the incident this morning. Don't forget. Oh boy, what was your voice? For fuck's sakes, Joan! Right? You chaps, eh? Yes. Good morning, sir. Thank you for your cooperation in court yesterday. It was quite a trial. You sent your wife to jail. As much for Mr. Garrideb's as anyone, really. Came straight back here after all that business at the Bailey yesterday. Didn't expect to wake up to more bawling nonsense this morning. I wonder if you wouldn't mind telling us exactly what happened, Mr. Garrideb. Yes, I suppose you'd like to know all about that dead loss of an actor chap in the ground floor room. Those were exactly Inspector Gregson's words, weren't they? Oh wow, we see him stand up! You don't have to stand up, you can sit down in your chair. Before we talk to him, I just wanted to see a little if... Yeah, things are still in shambles. You couldn't clean up. I guess he did just come back yesterday. I guess it's not a rush to clean things up. Makes sense. Alright, let's talk to him. It must have been a real shock for you this morning. I hear that you discovered what had happened. Well, that hopeless actor chap rises at 5 o'clock sharp every morning without fail. But at 5:30 this morning, he still hadn't lit the gas. So I went down and knocked on his door, but no bally answer. And that's when you broke into his room by kicking down the door? Well, I called on that rum-looking Japanese chap to do the grunt work, of course. What if he just wasn't at home? You know, what if he went out for some reason and you just break the door down just because someone didn't light their gas at 5:30 in the morning? Wasn't it a little premature to kick the door down? That man could have just overslept by half an hour. That's very true, Mr. Naruhodo. If 30 minutes oversleeping warranted such a behavior, I'd have to kick your door down every morning. He has a door? Well, you know, better to be safe than sorry and all that. It's just me. Or is he avoiding our gaze all of a sudden? Why? What? Why? Except that it was a sorry situation indeed that you found on the far side of the door. The victim's name is Mr. Shakespeare, I believe. Is that right? Yes, William Shakespeare, whatever. Took the ground floor room 3 months ago now. And how would you describe him? In a word, destitute. Destitute? What's his, I feel like I forgot his voice. Well, let's face it. The only redeeming feature of that room is the cheap rent. Anyone wanting to live in a place like that is either broke or has a bally screw loose. So hard to choose which categories Soseki-san would fall into. Mr. Naruhodo, that's a little rude. No, that's okay, he's not here to hear it. He was doing research as well. Research? Into what? Soap. Shakespeare, of course. Shakespeare. Read a few plays of the old bard myself, you know. Romeo and Hamlet and all that. Romeo and Hamlet. Yes, William Shakespeare is England's most highly regarded classical playwright and author. He's known as Sao in Japanese, as you know, and many of his works have already been translated. Sao? Why? He's known as Sao in Japanese? Why didn't you just call him Shakespeare? Shakespeare. Shakespeare. Yeah, whatever. Seems incredible that Shakespeare was shortened to Sao, though. Someone was too heavy-handed there. There were a lot of costumes in the victim's room, actually, weren't there? Of course, Mr. Natsume is a scholar of English literature as well. I imagine he and Mr. Shakespeare would have had much in common. Shakespeare interpretation disagreement leads to shocking murder. Let's hope it's not that. Why'd you write a headline in your head? Mr. Naruhodo! Really, that's rude! After Mr. Natsume's trial yesterday, you came straight back here, I believe, didn't you? Did you notice anything strange between them and this morning? Or then and this morning? Well now, must have been about 6 in the evening by the time I got home. Snow was coming down rather heavily as I remember, and it was completely dark already. That failed actor chap was out at the time. Mr. Garrett had noticed there was no light from his room or something, I suppose. How would he have noticed it if there's no windows? Couldn't summon the energy for anything much, so I just sat in front of the fire up here. It was after 8 before Shakespeare got back. And the chap was up until past 1 in the morning, I'll have you know. Suppose he met his end sometime after that. I was asleep by then, so I'm rather in the dark there. Well, thank you. That was very illuminating. Is everything alright, Mrs. Susato? Well, I was just thinking it's a little strange, that's all. Mr. Garrett, you were up here in your room all evening, if I understood correctly. Not a big fan of stairs. Not with this blasted leg. Then, how is it that you seem to know? The precise movements of your tenants on the ground floor, I mean. That's a very good point. I can't imagine that you could hear noises from the ground floor all the way up here. Does this old man like to spy on his tenants? Is that it? I say, I know what you're thinking. It's a bally outrage. I'm ex-military, don't you know? I don't go around spying on my tenants. Why would I? Then how did you know, Mr. Garrett? It's the gas, woman. The gas tells me everything. The gas. Yeah, when I know someone's home, I can smell their farts. It's fucking gross. What on earth do you mean, sir? How can the gas tell you anything, let alone everything? Well, as you're probably aware, the gas is supplied to the buildings by pipes. Yes, I'd more or less worked that out. Every room in the building is connected by a single pipe to the gas main outside. And the gas company supplies gas to properties via the main. Yes, I understand that too. Let me see if I can explain. Let's say I was to light the gas lamps up here. What do you suppose would happen? Well, obviously the room would get brighter. Exactly, but at the same time, the lights in all the other rooms of the house were dim for a moment. What? They dim? Why? Perhaps it's because, when you light a gas lamp, it briefly uses more gas than usual, and that reduces the amount of gas in the pipe for the other lamps that are connected to it. That might explain why the other lamps dim momentarily, mightn't it? Yes, of course, because everything's connected to a single supply pipe. Is that supposed to happen, though? It sounds rather undesirable. Jolly good point. Fact is, the gas company's pipes in these parts are pretty hopeless, long worn out, and barely got any gas in them to start with. Opposite is also true, of course. Extinguish the lamps up here, and they glow brighter in the rest of the house. Ah, right. I see. So by watching the flickering of the lamps in one room, you can determine what's happening elsewhere. You've got it. Oh, of course. Because when people come back home in the evening, and before they go to sleep at night, what they're guaranteed to do is either light or put out their lamps and fires. Clever. Why? How's that clever? In point of fact, the room on the ground floor and one above it use slightly different amounts of gas. By watching lights in here closely, I can work out into almost exactly what's going on in the whole house. Gosh, that's fascinating, Mr. Garrett. Absolutely fascinating. Oh well, nothing to it really. Can't really see that it's going to help us with the case either. What I'd like to know is why Mr. Garrett is so interested in what his tenants are up to in the first place. I feel like there's more to it than idle curiosity. Well, we've done as much investigating here as we can, I think. Perhaps we ought to go to the prison and speak with Mr. Natsume again. A good idea. Okay, bye. Boy. We're going to jail. Boy, I'm tired. I'm really pushing myself. Can't remember, did we get to see his... I guess we didn't see his feet before. Look, Mr. Naruhodo. Mr. Natsume, have the police finished questioning you now? Locum student! Fucking goddamn, if it's not you, then it's Garrett. God fucking Naruhodo Esquire! Oh, yes? What is he? Tell me! Is he a ghost? Is he here to haunt me? Let me guess. You're talking about Mr. Sholmes? Yeah, actually called himself a great detective, Mr. Natsume, not a ghost. But his diabolical deductions, they're not of his world. They've left me. Ah, cursed! I'm cursed, I tell you! Well, that sort of hurts. Credit where credit is due, Mr. Naruhodo. You were heavily involved in the deduction too. Yes. Moving on. We have some wonderful news. Oh? The victim that we all thought was dead has come back to life again. Now, in the absolute worst case, you could only be tried for attempted murder. That's great, isn't it, Mr. Natsume? It's terrible! Oh! I'm stuck in this cell suffering for some silly wrong end of the stick! You did it, didn't you? Confess! You're a killer! Why the mustache? Constant questions! I'm sorry to hear that. I'm that selfish shyster! Make up your mind! Are you dead or alive? If you're going to come back to life, why bother dying? Wickedly wishing William! Oh my god, I got lightheaded from that. Well, it seems likely that Mr. Shakespeare was never actually dead in the first place. Ah yes, that might make sense. And I'm pleased that he's alive, of course. Our lively debate last night was much fun. I'd be sad to think it was our last. Oh! Oops. Oops. Mr. Natsume, does that mean that you did see the victim last night? You met with Mr. Shakespeare, didn't you? I'm not saying another word! I demand of a lawyer present! Who do you think I am? Or whatever. Please, Mr. Natsume, we need to hear your side of the story. I mean, we don't have to be his lawyer, we can leave. Good luck finding someone to represent you. Why am I cursed like this? I can't. Oh my god, I was really just gonna push on through, but I think I'm too tired to do that. My throat really hurts and my eyes are just like bleh. I think it might be kind of time to call it quits for today. Even though this is a random place to stop, but whatever, so Seki can wait. We did. It actually doesn't feel like we've done a whole lot, but it sure took a long time to get here. So we'll pick it up again another time. Doesn't matter for you guys, but it only matters to me. We're just gonna go ahead and save here and let my throat rest up a bit. And yeah, next time you see me, hopefully my throat will be in better conditions. Yeah, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Boopy.